Hey everyone, Happy New Year. If you're someone who got an Osmo Pocket 3 over the holiday season, congratulations, whether you bought it for yourself or a friend or family member bought it for you. Either way, you rocking with a dope camera now. I personally have had mine since April of last year, and I love this little thing. It's actually pretty beat up because I take this thing with me everywhere. I just throw it in my bag. But in today's video, I'm gonna go over how I color correct and color grade my Osmo Pocket 3 footage, and I'm also gonna go over a few free resources for you as well. Let's get into this. By the way, if you're new here and stumbled into the channel, hi, I'm Hallease. I'm a filmmaker and storyteller based in Atlanta, Georgia. And on this channel, I document my chaotic good life. Subscribe, follow social media, all of the things. I wanna make sure there's a few settings you're aware of inside the Osmo Pocket 3 if you're filming with color correction and color grading in mind. So let's flip it to the above camera and go over those real quick. Okay, so if you wanna make the most of color correction and color grading using the Osmo Pocket 3, the first thing I would recommend is you don't shoot in normal color mode. So if you swipe over to the settings, in color, I have mine set to D-Log M 10-bit. When you first open it, it's gonna be in normal mode. And as you can see, that's already a certain color, look, and feel baked into the footage. So you can make adjustments in post, but not very many. So I like shooting with D-Log M because it's DJI's proprietary gamma. And without getting too inside baseball on different gammas and what they do, basically, log or logarithmic footage is just a snazzy way of saying desaturated and flat. By shooting in log, you're creating more color space, so that way you can expand different colors, change different colors, and ideally never actually oversaturate or lose any information, any pixels in the frame. The other thing that's worth noting about shooting in either D-Log M or HLG is that it shoots in 10-bit. 10-bit is a marker of describing the depth and the breadth of the color that's available to you within the camera. So think about it in terms of like how well it can capture all the different spectrums and colors and hues of the rainbow, how well it can transition from one color hue to the next. And I really just wanted to explain that to you so that way you're not just blindly doing what I'm saying, you're understanding the point. Likewise though, if you're someone who's like, you know what, I don't feel like having that much creative control, I like how it looks in normal, perfect. Now you know why normal is the way it is. So the next thing I want to talk about is exposure. That's this little number right here, right above the right side, right under the battery indicator. When I'm filming on my Osmo Pocket 3, I like my exposure to be anywhere from 0 to plus 0.7 at the most. I try not to let it hit 1. And here's why, because when you're filming with D-Log M, even though it's a log, it's not like log. It's log light. With true logs, you tend to want your exposure to be solidly at +1. But with D-Log M, since it's not like real log, I find that keeping my exposure anywhere between 0 and plus 0.7 is more than enough. I have more than enough highlights. So think the sky, I have more than enough midtones, think this different skin tones, clothing, colors, things like that. And my darks are not too dark. I can work with those as well. So for example, let's update the exposure here. Right now I have my ISO at 100 and my shutter is at 1/50th because I shoot in 24 frames per second. And right now my EV in the top left-hand corner is saying that it's about -0.7. So definitely underexposed. And while I'd probably be able to work with this shot in post, it's not ideally exposed to do the most with it in post. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to change my ISO to 200 and you'll see my EV is now roughly 0 plus 0.3. It's kind of like hanging out in that sphere, right? So I'm gonna hit confirm. I would feel confident taking this into my editor and knowing that my whites aren't too blown out, my darks aren't too dark as well. I'll be able to color correct and color grade this and have it look amazing. So it's one thing to talk about this, and then it's another thing to like actually show you what I mean walking around outside with the camera. So let's go get some coffee and I'll show you. To the coffee shop we go. So I'm walking to go get coffee and this is what it looks like when my exposure is right at 0. And I've went ahead and split the screen so that way you can see what it looks like raw, you know, just straight out of the camera, D-Log M, and also what it looks like color corrected. Not graded yet, just color corrected. So I'm gonna keep walking and then I'm also going to cut again and set it to be +3, so that way you can see what that is. This is what it is at +0.3 exposure. So not too much of a difference. This is why I usually actually try to keep it anywhere between 0 and like +0.7. I rarely try to let it get up to +1, which I will now show you what that looks like. So as you can see, like, it's not unusable. I think that's important to note and mention. You'll notice that there's probably a good amount of highlights across my face that are technically blown out. It's not terrible, but it's not ideal if you're trying to make the most out of color correcting and color grading the footage. And then also for reference, I'm also just gonna show you just what -1 looks like as well. So here we go. So just to give you a reference, this is what -1 exposure looks like on the Osmo Pocket 3. So I would argue borderline unusable, but you know, let's just so y'all can see what that is and you can go from there. It's not that there's no data, so you could boost different things, change different things. It's just a reference point for you. All right, so now that I've shown you a few technical things to consider when filming with the Osmo Pocket 3, specifically with color correction and color grading in mind, now let's color correct and color grade some stuff. Editor Hallease, take it away. Thanks, Coffee Shop Hallease. I appreciate it. So before we get too deep into this part of the tutorial, I hope you're enjoying it. And if you are, please consider liking and sharing and subscribing to this channel. It really helps me out a lot. But beyond that, this is like what I do. Teaching online, helping others learn how to tell their own stories, whether it be through technical skills or whatever. This is what I do full time. And I actually have a huge sale on a whole bunch of my courses that I've created online as well. So if you're interested to check them out, head over to stumblewell.com. Essentially, I'm over here just trying to help y'all kick off the new year right by bundling a whole bunch of my courses together and offering them at a discount to you. So if you've never touched Adobe Premiere Pro before and it freaks you out, don't worry, I have a course for that. Literally, I click the icon with you and together we learn Adobe Premiere Pro. Also on the video and filmmaking side, if you're someone who's trying to figure out how to light yourself better, I have a course within the bundle called Lighting at Any Budget. So that way you can make the most of whatever space you're in with whatever budget and whatever lighting you have available to you. Also in the bundle, I cover aspects of storytelling, especially for short form. So if you're someone who's trying to be in the vertical sphere, maybe here on YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels. And finally, if Adobe Premiere Pro is just like a little too scary right now, which I get, no worries, I also have a course on Adobe Express, which is a completely free app that you can use. It's amazing. It's really great if you're someone who's trying to become a social media manager, or again, you're a budding content creator and you want to figure out how to schedule and create your content all in one place. Adobe Express is really dope, and I have a course that breaks it all down for you. In the video masterclass bundle, it's over 4 hours of education content, and I also provide raw footage for you to follow along with me as I move through the lessons, so that way you can have things to practice with as well. So if you're interested, it's only going to be available till the end of the month. So make sure to check it out, stumblewell.com to learn more, or just head down to the description box. I've got it linked there as well. All right, so now let's get into the rest of the tutorial. All right, so to get the most out of the Osmo Pocket 3, use the free LUT that they offer. DJI offers a free LUT for the Osmo Pocket 3. I'll make sure to link to this down in the description box, the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 D-Log M to Rec 709 LUT, and they also offer some color grading LUTs as well. But in regards to color correction specifically, which is essentially just taking your footage and correcting it to look like it would look to the human eye, natural, if you will, you're gonna want this first one, the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 D-Log M to Rec 709 LUT. So for those of you who don't know, a LUT is short for a lookup table. Essentially, it's a series of values that tells whatever editor you're working in to like, hey, make the blues this high, make the greens this high, make the yellows over here, do this, do that, do this. That's essentially what it is. And in general, for the color correcting, you're always going to be looking for Rec 709. Rec 709 is just a standard definition of color displays. So basically the color across screens has been standardized, whether it's your phone, your computer, laptop, Rec 709. There are other standards, BT 2020, things like that, but they're not important. If you're someone who's making videos and you're more or less going to be putting them somewhere on Al Gore's internet, Rec 709 is what you need. Now that we have our LUT, let's apply it to our footage in Adobe Premiere Pro. All right, so we're back with coffee. Hallease, here she is, chilling, vibing. And we're going to open our Lumetri color. I'm also gonna open up my Lumetri scopes so you can see what I'm talking about. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the top here at Input LUT, and I'm gonna browse and head over to that free LUT that is provided by DJI. Here's where we started, here's the raw, right? So again, we had that flat look, and then here it is color corrected now. And it looks pretty good. This is a free LUT, it looks good. Now, if we wanna take this a step further, I'll hit the auto and just see what happens. And even then, Adobe Premiere Pro did some like super minor adjustments, and I can see in my waveforms it kind of messed with a few things. I think this is fine as is. Like if I reset this and we just start with this is just like our color corrected footage. It's not bad. So now that we've color corrected the footage to where we like it, now let's do the color grade. So color grading is when we start to add a stylized look to the color of the footage. Over the years, I've kind of figured out a look that I like, and I just kind of have that look and I like it. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and add an adjustment layer to my project because in general, I like to have the color correction actually on the clip for the most part. And then my color grading, I like to have as its own adjustment layer on top. So that way there's a separation and I can just turn it on and off to see and make sure everything's good. So with my adjustment layer highlighted, first, the curves. So this is something that I like to do to almost all of the footage where I'm in frame. I always like to enhance my melanin just a little bit. And I find that this works for anyone regardless of whatever shade you are. So I like to play with the hue versus saturation. Hue versus saturation essentially is like whatever color you highlight in it, how intense is that color? So I like to highlight my skin tone and intensify it just a little bit. So the first thing I do is I go down to the hue versus saturation. I hit that little eyedropper. I more or less hit somewhere on my face. Let's say like here, perfect. And that's usually around where it lands for my skin tone when I do this. And what I do is I just like up it. Like just a little bit. It's subtle, like it's so subtle. Now the second thing I wanna do is the hue versus luma. And sometimes I'll do this, sometimes I won't. But again, it's kind of the same thing. Hue versus luma is whatever color you highlight. The luma of it, or how bright it is, if you will, how much light is reflecting into that color, bring it down or bring it up, your choice. I usually bring it down. So again, gonna take our eyedropper and I'm gonna highlight where the luma, where the light is really shining hard on my face. So it's a slightly different color. So let's go like right here. Cool. And then I'm going to just dip it down, not too much. That's where we were with it off, on. Cute. And then creative. So this part is where I add the sort of color looks that I like. And I don't have any crazy awesome color looks. What's inside Premiere Pro is more than enough for me. So I'm gonna show you a few of my favorite color looks and how I kind of set them up. So my favorite one that I use a lot is Gold Rush HDR. That looks intense and scary, don't freak out. I usually keep it at about like 60-ish%. Sometimes I'll go down to like 50, especially if I feel like the LUT is already doing a lot, which in this case it is. So even just like 30%. Okay, so there it is, off, on. Another one I really like to use is Neutral Start. I feel like it's just a really clean look. So here it is at 100%. This is Neutral Start. It's just a really clean, leans a little blue look, and it's just built into Premiere. Again, a lot of times I'll have it at around like 60% because I don't want to overdo it with the look, you know, with the grade. I just want it to be stylized. There it is off. There it is on. Another one that I use con frecuencia is Clean Fuji A HDR. And I like this one because it gives more of that, what I feel is like a filmy kind of look, you know what I'm saying? And also historically with Fujifilm, it's kind of trying to replicate it. And Fujifilm usually would lean sort of like green, blue, if you will, which I always felt really worked well with my overall aesthetic. But I would say an honorable mention that I find that a lot of people really like is Kodak A. So, you know, Kodak always leans a little warm, just leans into the oranges and to the yellows. And as you can see, it is a great look. That's what I do. That's my workflow for color correcting and color grading on the Osmo Pocket 3. I make sure that I expose correctly when I'm filming. Obviously, I film in DJI D-Log-M, and then when I hop into post, I use their proprietary D-Log-M Rec 709 LUT. And then on top of it, I do some slight skin enhancements. And finally, I add a base color LUT that is available inside Adobe Premiere Pro. And that's it. Again, I'm Hallease, endeavoring to persevere. As always, if you're new here, I make videos about my chaotic good life. Subscribe, follow social media, all of the things. Big shout out to my Patreon producers, patreon.com/Hallease. There you get early access to these videos, exclusive content, merch, and so much more. I really appreciated that so many of y'all in the comments let me know that you really wanted to know how I color correct and color grade my footage. Happy to do it. Here's how. Again, I'm Hallease. I'll see you when I see you.